Got it.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being with us this morning. Today is Southern California Edison's new construction, a three-part series. Today's topic is new construction for new build and ADUs. Hello, my name's Olivia Rios, and I am the Director of Operations and Programs at the LA Latino Chamber. We want to thank you in advance for being with us today. So whether you are in construction, design, a homeowner, real estate, or a developer, this webinar will help you learn new construction for single-family homes and ADUs and service request incentives. As always, I'm grateful to be with you this morning, and I'm glad to see a lot of familiar faces. But I'd like to start by thanking our sponsor, Southern California Edison, for their continued support to help us provide technical training to our Latino community. The panel of experts we have here with you today have supported single-family initiatives as well as ADU stakeholders through incentive programs or power service requests. Before we start, I ask for you to mute yourself, ask the questions in the chat box, and we can answer them as we go along. Or if there's many, then we can have a quick Q&A. This session is being recorded and will be available on our website later this week. But again, before we start, I'd like to introduce our chairman, Daryl Salceda, who's been in the construction industry most of his life and is also COO of Associated Construction Services, and Ms. Ruby Rose Yepes, new construction senior advisor at Southern California Edison. I'll turn it over to our moderators. Mr. Chairman, good morning.
Good morning, Olivia, and thank you so much. Again, I want to welcome everybody to this very robust single-family ADU workshop. If you have any questions, just put them in a chat box. And again, thank you for sharing your most valuable time with us to this most important workshop. Ruby Rose, I think take it from here, right, Ruby?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. And apologies, I am in a space that we're doing construction, so you might hear the noise in the background. Olivia, can you slip to the next two slides, please? And thank you. We're very proud to partner with the Los Angeles Latino Chamber of Commerce to bring you guys this information. As I mentioned, my name is Ruby Rose Yepes. I am a senior advisor with Southern California Edison, supporting all of our new construction customers, both on the residential and the commercial side throughout Edison territory. Just a few housekeeping items that I'd like to cover today. Next slide, please. As Olivia did mention, the agenda for today, we do have three speakers, me being one of them. After, I'm going to pass it on over to one of our planners out of our Monrovia district office. That'll be Jose Luis Gomez Jr. And he'll be going over service requests and some setbacks and easements that are required as part of ADUs or just in general whenever there's Edison or utility facilities. And then we'll have Melinda Dinin from the TRC to speak about an incentive program that is offering money for both single family and ADUs, both new construction and alterations as you're making those upgrades. Next slide, please. As Olivia mentioned, we will be recording this so that we can share for those who were not able to attend with us today. But also, as Daryl did mention, as we're presenting, we'd like to get through the presentation first, and then we can do a Q&A after each topic. So if you do have any questions, we can definitely come back to them. Just drop them in the chat or raise your hand when we get to the Q&A portion of it. Next slide. And being a utility company, safety is one of our values and most important things that we try to maintain, both internally and externally. So just wanted to cover a few safety items since it is the holidays. Many of us might be having candles in our home, just like me. So just remember, wherever you place a candle, to keep a 12-inch radius from anything that can catch fire. And also, it's always good to have I want to say a fire hydrant. It's not a fire hydrant. It is oh my gosh, somebody help me. I didn't have my coffee this morning. A fire extinguisher. There we go. Sorry. A fire extinguisher. If you will be having candles in your home, it's just always safe. And then if you're going to be getting a tree, make sure that you are watering it properly. And you're also keeping it from anything that can cause it to catch on flames. And don't over connect your lights, because that can also set off your panel, and you don't want to be losing power. And if you are using little electric heaters, also please just be cautious of those. Keep them away from anything that also can catch flames as well. Next slide. All right, so now I'm going to pass it over to Joseph Luis Gomez Jr., who is going to speak about our service and any requests that you have from Edison. So Jose, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ruby. Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Jose Luis Gomez Jr. I'm a local planner out of the Monrovia Service Center, and I'll be covering the construction side of the single-family homes and ADU. Next slide, please. SCE system planning process, where we perform annual system evaluations to address the changing power needs throughout the service territory. Plans are developed on 10-year forecasts based on information that the customers give us for load forecasting. It's the accurate and timely information given to us is crucial to the planning evaluations. So we do ask that you contact Edison as early as possible. That we can initiate discussions and plan the power that that service area needs. Next slide, please. Some of the current challenges that Edison is facing is as the industry continues to move towards electrification, more buildings, more facilities are being electrified, and we're seeing an increase of number of requests from customers looking for more electrical capacity. Not just necessarily new, but increase in existing. So in this case, grid upgrades are sometimes needed to create the capacity sufficient to accommodate existing plus future. And in the Metro East region, we've seen a number of growing number of residential projects that these are now requiring grid infrastructure to support the increase in demand. Edison is a public utility regulated by the CPUC, California Public Utilities Commission. And so we're responsible to be prudent in the expenditure of customer funds, and constructing infrastructure upgrades where the load doesn't necessarily materialize can harm customers in the form of rate increases. So as a regulated utility, we must show sufficient confidence that the upgrades that we are doing are required. So and depending on the magnitude of the load requested, Edison may need to evaluate the distribution and transmission system as a whole to safely and reliably energize new customer load. Next slide, please. So when to contact Edison regarding power needs? The short answer is as soon as possible. So for example, if you're going to start applying for permits from the city or the county, that's probably the best time to go ahead and initiate contact with Edison. We'll always provide, so we're in the business of providing power, and we'll always provide the power that you need. But upgrades may be necessary to the grid to be able to get there. Partnering with Edison early will ensure that the level of power that you need is delivered both in a timely and safe manner. Customers should contact Edison as early as possible, especially for large power requests, and contact the planning department to discuss and review the project, including plans of phasing in power, where we could possibly approve part of what your demand is and make a plan on what it's going to take for us to get to the rest of it. Next slide, please. And so to initiate a project, you could either visit sce.com/local planning. You could call into the residential or commercial department, and the phone numbers are listed there for you. And or you could contact the local service center as well. We have the electrical service requirement manual found on our website, and there's a list of every city and what service center covers that city. Then once the project is initiated, we'll follow typical planning and design process. So the district provides the customer a list of documents needed before we can start a design. So that'll include things like the customer project information sheet. That'll give us a contact person of who's the owner, who's a legal contact, who's going to be our on-site contact, and a general scope of what we're going to be doing. Then we may also request grant deed, city approved plans, CAD files, and then a full design submittal. Once we receive all of these documents, a full design submittal is received. Then we can start a preliminary design. The average timeline for a work order for a new design is about 10 to 14 weeks. It depends on the complexity of the project and the current workflow of the planner. And incomplete design submittals could cause delays, so it's important to get all the submittals that the planner requests. Then in order to proceed, the preliminary design gets presented to the customer. You review it, and once approved, it goes back to the planner, and we could continue to moving the preliminary design to a final. And then once we get a final design, we get it approved, and we pass that on to you, back to the customer for construction. Then we also take care of at that point if we'll address if more tests will be need to be done, like environmental review, permitting with either city, or if there's other jurisdictions like Caltrans or forestry. And then we'll take care of bills, invoice, contracts. The average time frame for that, it's about a week to process all of it. And then SCE can schedule the electrical work once all customer obligations have been met. So it's conduit inspections, panel sign off, easements, and then that the work schedule, once we have all the tasks complete, is about 4 to 6 weeks after everything's been received. And then scheduling will provide a date for the project to be energized. And I think we're on the next slide already, so let me scroll. Actually, if we could go back one. Back one more, please. Okay, thank you. So overall, it's about 6 to 9 months if power is already available. If power is not available and we have to bring it in, it's generally about 12 to 24 months. And every project is case by case. So again, can't emphasize enough, involving Edison early is going to be your best tool. Single family home projects can vary depending on the scope of the project. If we have an empty lot with a new custom build, or if you have an existing structure that's going to be demoed and rebuilt, then we're looking at doing a removal, temporary power, and then a new service to be installed. Or if you're just simply remodeling an existing home. ADU as a new structure is also different from an ADU as being made as part of the existing structure. And again, each one is case by case. Commercial and industrial developments will vary depending on the availability of power, but increasing load on existing equipment and infrastructure, again, is about 6 to 9 months. And an empty lot, it's also about 12 to 24 months. Next slide, please. And this slide, you get a better idea of what happens at each step. So as a high overview of it, in step 1, we're getting information. We're requesting information from the customer. In step 2, we start to design. More information may be requested. If anything's missing or more details are required. In step 3, the customer fulfills all the requirements. Construction, inspections, permits, and then in step 4, we move on to scheduling. And step 5 is the actual construction of the Edison facilities onto the project, and then we energize. Next slide, please. So there's benefits of building all electric homes. All electric homes cost less to build than a mixed fuel home. Savings come from lower equipment costs and avoiding gas infrastructure, and interconnection costs, and it's easier energy code compliance. Additional values such as a heat pump, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, induction cooking, and adding solar can help homeowners save on their energy bill as well. By going electric, the credit towards compliance in your energy model on average will be about 10%. And this allows for flexibility on the other home features. And we have a couple links here for you to check out. Next slide, please. So single family homes and ADUs, this will go to local planning. You'll want to call in your service requests for a new service, a change in service if you have to make changes to your existing panel, or both. If you're going to be doing a new panel for the ADU and a change to the main home panel. Some projects bundle this together. So you may be calling in up to two service requests for an ADU project. Service request is then assigned to a local planner, and then the planner will contact or make a site visit within 5 to 7 business days. And then the planner covers the options with the contractor. Whether we're going to be doing an upgrade to the existing, we're going to create a new point of service, or if a work order is going to be required for the new service. The ADU will get permitted by the municipality, and the address is assigned by the municipality as well. Do keep in mind that some cities now are not allowing a second meter. So because we can move forward with an ADU doesn't necessarily mean that you'll have a second meter for that ADU. So getting everybody involved early is going to be key. We can review site plans, tell you what we know about the city. The city could give their input as well. And we can discuss easements and encroachments. Typically, it's when we have new walls, new structures that can create access limitations to our infrastructure. That's where we may have to make changes in plans. So involving us early will give us the opportunity to do that. Next slide, please. Safe construction in the state of California, General Order 95. So the state of California, CPUC, has established a GO 95 basic minimum allowable clearances that say what distance we need to maintain between energized wires above structures and other objects. And these clearances are expanded during construction so that we can allow construction equipment and personnel to maintain a safe allowable clearance from energized wires while working. And the table 1 here, pretty good diagram that shows what's the minimal distances. If you know the scaffolding on the side of the building, if somebody were to be standing on that person would be encroaching in that safe allowable area that they would have to maintain out of it. So keep that in mind when designing, and then meeting with the planner on site can help identify what areas we would have to stay out of. Next slide, please. Okay. Many city-approved ADU construction projects do cause GO 95 clearance and encroachment infractions to SCE utilities. When SCE is not contacted prior to construction, many infractions are not identified until construction is already started. And in some cases, they've already been completed. Customers and contractors are working in hazardous environments near energized power lines when this happens. And projects can often be put on hold for months until the infractions can be corrected. So GO 95 infractions, they must be identified prior to the start of construction. In the picture here on the right, you can see that there's an energized power line going over the new construction to the existing home. That line is going to have to be relocated before the framing and the roof can go up. Next slide, please. And if we can skip to slide 35, please. I'm sorry, 36. Believe two slides back, please. Yes, that one. So this is setting up a temporary power pole. If a temporary power is required during construction, you'll call in a service request for this. The Edison planner will come to the site and meet with the customer contractor. Once the service request is called in, it'll get assigned to the planner. We'll make contact, and then we'll request that a customer project information sheet and the CSD 274, which is a temporary power contract, is completed. Then we ask that the contractor provide a site map, or we provide a meter spot for the location of the temporary power. And then once we confirm with the customer that this is going to be a good spot, then we process the order. The planner will send the customer the invoice. Customer will then pay the invoice. And then we'll provide a service order and the premise number to the customer to call in an application for a new meter. Once that's called in, you can have a panel inspection on the temporary power. And then once the inspection has been received, we can send out a crew to go ahead and energize.
Jose, I have a quick question. Someone wrote in the chat box, who pays for the wire to be moved if an ADU is being built on an existing property? Does the homeowner or SCE?
It's really case by case. There's some instances where it does have to be paid by the homeowner because the GO 95 infraction is being caused by the new construction. But there's benefits to relocating wires or performing upgrades that are not gonna that will benefit multiple customers. Then it could possibly be completed as a maintenance work order, and in those cases there's no cost to the customer doing the construction.
Okay.
But it really is case by case. If we may have the next slide, please. If we may move on to the next slide, please.
I think we may be having technical difficulties. Let's give it a couple more seconds.
Can you not see it?
No, it's not moving. It's like frozen.
Uh-oh. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and try it again.
All right.
How about now?
Yes. If we could go one slide back, please. Okay, thank you. So tampering with SCE assets, unfortunately we see this from time to time where the existing panel in the house has been removed, placed on a pole, and used as temporary power. So we can't allow that. That's considered an illegal temporary power. That hasn't been inspected and hasn't been installed to the electrical service standards. So construction without a city inspection temp power pole is a violation of the SCE rules and tariffs, and it is case for immediate termination of the service. So we ask that you follow the proper process for temporary power. And next slide, please. Okay, SCE distribution line easements. So this step is very important, as we want to make sure that not only does your new structure doesn't encroach, but there is no safety risk to workers during the construction or occupants afterwards. Distribution line easements are facilities that carry voltages below 50,000 volts. Primary and most residential areas are about 12,000 and 6,000. I'm sorry, 12,000, 16,000. And then at the step down level, we're still looking at 122.40. A customer should approach SCE first before developing their plans. This way we can work with you to address easement conflicts. If the responsibility of it's the responsibility of the property owner to know that SCE has an easement and to provide proof when building structures near poles and conductors. Distribution line easements can be identified by completing by consulting with the title company and requesting a detailed preliminary report. You can also request a rights check from an SCE planner for a flat fee of $500 for the first 3 hours and $100 for an hour every after. It is an initial consult with your local planner to obtain an application. So no building should begin prior to verifying that easements exist, to avoid having to go as far as tearing down the building or relocate a structure. May I have the next slide, please? And there are some cases where there's a public utility easement or PUE. And this is not an easement for SCE. It's mainly an easement for public utilities that are going to be put in by the city or the county. So SCE does need to acquire its own rights by a separate grant of easement. Next slide, please. To request encroachment on distribution easement, your request must follow the following information. You have to have a requester's name, mailing address, email address, and phone number. A legible copy of the recorded of easement to be encroached upon, as well as a copy of your recorded ownership grant deed. These could be obtained from your title company or from the county records office. 2 copies of legible map, sketch, or plot plan depicting the location of the grant of easement and its width and how the proposed encroachment affects the easement area. It should be no larger than 8.5 by 11. If notations are too small to read, the recorder's office will reject the document. Processing fee, we ask you not to send the payment with the request, but we'll send you a separate invoice for processing once the encroachment request has been approved. And it's $500 for each easement being encroached upon. Property locations such as an address, assessor's parcel number, or cross streets. And then if property owner is held by a corporation, an LLC, or LP, please provide the proper name of the entity executing document and persons of executing document on behalf of the entity and proof of authority to execute. Corporate resolution, operating agreement, etc. Any of the amendments there too. Next slide, please. So once we received all the mentioned items, the package will be forwarded to the appropriate service planner. If you're currently working with an Edison planner, please provide that planner's name when you're submitting your request. The service planner will then review the information and perform a site check of the area to determine if the consent to encroach request can be granted. Upon receipt of the approval from the planner, the invoice will be generated and sent to the requester. And upon receipt of the payment, the consent to encroach is prepared and mailed to you, to your attention for execution and notarization. Once our office has received the executed notarized consent to encroach document, it will be executed and notarized by our management and then mailed to the appropriate county recorder's office for recording. Upon request of the confirmed copy of the recorded encroachment will be mailed to you for records. And then due to the existing request, the process could take 60 to 90 days. And there's the contact information to start this process. If we go next slide, please. And again, as Edison Planning is early, is going to be your best tool to ensure that everything is met. Everything, all the requirements are met. We're taking care of easements, encroachments. Any GO95 issues can be addressed early on. We'd like to be able to see a load schedule initially, and any other site maps that you may have. Let me have the next slide, please. The electrical service requirements can be found on our website. Here's a couple pages just showing the type of information you'll find on there. This will help you to get an idea of how to design your plans. Next slide, please. The weatherhead location for overhead services. And another note to keep in mind is that for every 10 feet vertical that we have to place the weatherhead, we need 4 feet of horizontal space to be able to set a ladder. Just the picture below, 20 feet high, we need at least 8 feet of distance for a ladder. And next slide, please. And this slide will give you contact information of where to contact local planning, where to find the electrical service requirements, and information for encroachment, and then Ruby and David's information as well. And that's all I have for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jose. I know that was a lot of information that Jose shared. There is a lot that goes into requesting service, but we wanted to make sure that you had the information at your fingertips. Somebody did ask if the slide deck is going to be shared. It is. If you don't get it, feel free to email me. I dropped my email in the link. And we know that a lot of ADUs are being built within LA County, so we just want to make sure that everybody is aware of what the requirements are. Make sure that if you're working with a contractor or designer, that they are looking into the easements within the utilities, because that's very, very important. You don't want to start construction and then get a stop ticket because you are encroaching on utility easements. So that could be very costly. So just make sure that your contractor is doing their proper due diligence and looking into that information. All right, so really quickly, we're going to cover energy efficiency, something that's very near and dear to my heart. Before I actually joined Edison, I was an energy and sustainability consultant. So energy efficiency is something that's really important for me. Can you go to the next slide, please? So as we get there, energy efficiency really speaks to the performance of a home, making sure that your building envelope, which includes your walls, your roof, and the insulation that goes in there, your doors, your windows, that everything is properly insulated and sealed, because that prevents air drafts that are coming in and out of the house. Also, this includes your systems, including your mechanical system, your water heating system, making sure that they're properly functioning, and also that they're high performing. So if you have systems, just like an old refrigerator that is utilizing a lot of energy, you're probably paying more on your electric bill than what you need. I did have an incident actually with one of my primos where he shared with me that his in-laws were having an electric bill of nearly $800, and that they were, shutting off lights, they weren't running the AC, and he couldn't understand why the bill was so high. They were even testing the outlets, and it turned out that they had a really old freezer in the garage, and as soon as they unplugged it, their bill dropped like $500. So having high performing and efficient systems in your home, including refrigerators, and also making sure that your building envelope is properly sealed, properly insulated, all of those play part in how much power and energy your home uses. So if you have a very inefficient home and you have air leaking all over the place, your mechanical system is probably overworking itself. And if your mechanical system is overworking itself, then that means that your utility bill is going to be higher than what it should be. I know a lot of people ask about putting on solar to reduce their utility bills, but I say, especially what I'm doing on my own home, is that you should do energy efficiency first. Make sure that you have good windows, make sure that your building envelope, your walls, your roof, everything around your windows and doors are properly sealed. And make sure that your mechanical system and your water heater are properly functioning and that they're efficient systems, because that's what's going to drop your load first. And then you install solar, which would then be a minimal amount of panels because you've reduced your load in lieu of just slapping on panels without doing any energy efficiency measures. And then you're going to be putting on more panels than what you probably need. So that was my little spiel about energy efficiency. I don't know. You probably have to go up, Jules. Let me see. Where's the energy efficiency?
Down a few slides.
Yeah. But it might be frozen again.
Well, if she's frozen right now, can you take the time to address some of Jesse's questions? Jesse, can you unmute yourself?
Yes. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I had a few questions on the previous presentation, talking about installs and planning and so forth. If this is not if the answer is going to come down the road, just let me know. So the first question was, in terms of is there a consistent guideline for when you do an ADU and you want to put a separate meter for that unit, that is it okay to put a new meter in the back unit without having to interrupt the existing meter for the house, for the main house?
I could take this question. This is Jose. It really depends on the property. There is something new in the tariffs that came out just about a couple years ago, where now we're allowing to have separate drops to the front half of the new ADU structure. We just need to make sure that the facilities are available for it. A good example is if the pole line is across the street and the service to the front house comes from across the street to the front, getting a new drop from the same pole line to an ADU, especially a lot, may be challenging. Typically, we can do service drop as long as 100 feet, and if we go past 100 feet, we have to start looking at installing a new service pole on the property, or it may turn out to be easier to existing panel to like a 2-gang panel. But every ADU is kind of case, especially when you do a separate panel. But to answer your question, it is possible. It just has to be addressed with the planner.
And is that something that could happen over a phone call? Like say, hey, I have the pole right behind the unit. It's within 100 feet. Is that something that we could say, yes, it's doable, and so we could proceed and follow up with paperwork, or do we have to follow with paperwork before we even get that answer back?
At a minimum, I would recommend doing a site visit with the planner. That way you can first determine if it's possible or not, and then that way you can put it on your plan. Involve them in the planning process first.
Okay. The next question I had was, the scenario you were talking about where the cable, the power line comes across from the back and crosses the property to the house, and how that has to get relocated. What happens when you have three wires? So one servicing the main house, and then one cable each servicing your neighbors, and they all three will cross your property. Who pays
They
for
would
that?
they would all have to be relocated. And at sometimes when it's three services like that, it may be easier to extend secondary. And now that kind of goes into like a Rule 15 project where we're doing a line extension. And that's one of those projects that can be benefiting more than just one customer and could possibly be incorporated into like a maintenance work order.
Okay. And then so that's what the other scenario is, if the line crosses our property and it's feeding the neighbor, is that also something that needs to get relocated, or can you work with that?
If it's going to be creating a 95 infraction, yes, it would have to be relocated.
Okay. And lastly, is there any like handouts that you showed on like clearances and stuff like that? Is there more information that pertains to like ADUs or these back homes that are being built?
Not just specifically for ADU, but on I think it's on Edison's website. You find the California General Order 95, and there's a manual in there that goes over. There's two tables in the general order that has like the minimum distances you need between, and it'll list out if you have communication cable, phone line or a cable line from a power line, and what's the minimum you need. So that's probably your best resources for that. And again, if you have questions, very specific site questions, if you involve the planner, you can work with them to identify the tables as well.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
For the sake of time, can Jesse, you want to put in your information on the chat box, and then we could follow up with Jose?
Sounds good. Appreciate for answering those questions though. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Jose, I would also say drop your email in so Jesse can email you to get the GO95 information.
Oh yeah, be my
All right, I think I covered energy efficiency enough, so let's go ahead and jump over to Melinda, who will speak about getting money for doing, no, go back up. Oh, sorry, ignore me, I was wrong.
It's a big blue slide.
So
There you
All
go.
right.
So just one
okay.
other thing, one thing quick, so that if anybody wants to replay this thing, this will be uploaded on the Chamber's website as well, in case we missed something. Thank you.
Super.
Thanks, John.
So good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm here. I'm Melinda Dinnan with TRC. I'm speaking on behalf of the California Energy Smart Homes program, and this is a residential new construction and alteration program that promotes advanced energy efficiencies. And next slide, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the program. Is administered and funded. It's TRC, where I work, we're the program implementers. PG&E is the program administrator on behalf of the California IOUs, and the funding for this program is coming from the CPUC, the California Public Utility Commission. Go ahead, next slide. So to be eligible for these incentives, you need to be located in one of these electric service territories on the map. Next. So single family, all electric new construction. This includes single family homes, duplexes, townhomes, ADUs, and manufactured homes. So this is again for new construction. We have incentives for all electric construction, and I've included some of the, or all of the prerequisites actually. So communicating thermostats, Those are those smart thermostats you can control from your smartphone or other handheld device. Segregated circuits that puts your refrigerator and your air conditioning on a separate plug load than your lights. Pre-wiring for electric vehicle charging. This is part of the new energy code. It's not required for ADUs. I think we all know most ADUs don't have separate parking designated. Battery storage readiness for those single family homes that are duplexes and townhomes, and thermostatic mixing valves. So the last three I mentioned are not required for ADUs, and ADUs are really trending. It's a great way to have family members be close, or additional income streams for homeowners. So the main thing I can also emphasize is that you'll need a current energy model that will come with your plans, and that you're not receiving incentives from another CPUC funded program. They call that double dipping. And I also encourage you always to adhere to applicable federal, state, and local laws and codes. Next slide, I'll show you the incentives. So these are per unit incentives, and it's based on your completion date, when your construction is completed and you have a certificate of occupancy. So single family homes that are all electric and meet the prerequisites I just talked about, and located in Southern California Edison's electric territory. So that's $3,500. And then they de-escalate over time. So we're encouraging folks to get building today. The ADU incentives are about half of what the single family homes, just based on size, but we're also able to pay these either to the property owner, or you can ask us to pay your contractor directly. Next slide. So these are for folks doing alterations. So if you have a single family home that has gas currently, you might have a gas water heater. So if you are able to remove those gas end uses and put in a heat pump, we're able to add some incentives for removing the gas and going all electric. And again, they de-escalate over time. So ADUs are slightly lower, and that is if you have an existing ADU with a gas furnace or a gas water heater, and you take that to advanced electric technologies, including heat pumps, we've got incentives. I've got an infrastructure bonus also, because you'll need to upgrade your panel to support that electric use, and a heat pump dryer bonus. Next slide. So this is how to reach me on the California Energy Smart Homes program. I have one more incentive program to tell you about. It's called Build, and these two incentive programs can layer together. Next slide. Super, we can just zip ahead. This is the Build program. Great. Oh, so here we go. Why participate in Build? So these big incentives here, up to $2 million, are for reducing construction costs. Now, this would be not for one person building one house. This is for a developer who's building many single family homes. They include 300 hours, up to 300 hours of no-cost technical assistance to overcome any of those design or construction barriers that building with all electric will present. The important thing to know is that these build incentives are available for homes that are for low income and affordable. So next slide. So there are robust incentives available. When there's 4 components, we've got a base incentive for greenhouse gas emission avoidance. We've got an additional incentive for building above the energy code. And as a reminder, the energy code changes as of January 1, 2023. It's got additional incentives for incremental photovoltaic, which is solar. So when you go above and beyond on your solar panels, feeding it back to the grid, there's an additional incentive. And there's a final kicker for reducing greenhouse gas. Next slide. I know we're almost out of time here. So here are some how to get the technical assistance and incentives for these homes using build incentives. Again, they are targeted towards affordable housing and low-income housing. And for more, I will put these links in the chat in case folks have questions or want additional information. And thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you, Melinda, and thank you, Jose. I know time is of the essence. Let me go through the chat real quickly. We were asked if we will be sending the slides. We could certainly share the presentation with you all. We answered some of Jesse's questions. And again, Jesse, drop in your email, but Jose did drop in his email, jose.gomez@SCE, so you're able to connect. And then Melinda did give us the information on smart homes. So with that, as you could see, Southern California Edison has many incentives for construction programs. So there's a huge pot of money out there. Get it, save your clients some money. But before we end, I'd like to remind you to join us next week for session 3, where we will discuss cannabis energy efficiency codes that go into effect January 1st of 2023, new constructions request, and charge-ready minimums duty incentives. The session will be next Wednesday, December 14th at the same time, which is 9 o'clock. And lastly, if you haven't already, the Chamber has a holiday party coming up on December 10th. If you are interested, please call me or send me an email at olivia@lalcc.org for a link to purchase your ticket at $100. So it's filled with entertainment. We are giving our Elevate Together grants away, so we'll be making a presentation on that program. And it's a great place to meet new folks and our sponsors and Chamber supporters. So you can register for all of our events at lalcc.org. Be safe, have a fantastic week, and we will see you next week. Ruby Rose, one more thing.
Yeah, one more thing. So I know we will be covering some of the horticulture or cannabis code updates, but I also wanted to just make note that some of the programs we'll be covering will be for commercial buildings in general, office spaces. So there's incentives there for any upgrades to those types of facilities and structures. And then also, I know we mentioned Charge Ready. I don't know if you've heard about this program, but there has been such a significant uptake with our customers on the program. Actually, at this point, unless you're doing multifamily new construction, we are no longer taking applications for that program. So we're going to ixnay that from the agenda for next week if you do plan to join, but we will be talking about other programs that support our commercial and office buildings. And that's it.
Thank you so much. Well, everyone enjoy your day. Thank you for
Thank you very
joining.
much. Bye.
Thank you.